Morning through all kita. Dapa namuna. Rapalu lugan nama parami. Velemi and longami. Look, I've been given the difficult task of speaking on behalf of the Prime Minister and the Minister for Foreign Affairs, who are unable to make it this morning because they are currently involved in the difficult task of allocating portfolios to their coalition partners. So let me try my very best this morning to outline some of the key priorities that this government sets out to achieve during the life of its government. But before I do that, I'd like to thank Andrew and Robert for being in touch with me over the last few days and continuously reminding me to keep checking on the PM. Sadly, he's not able to make it, so you'll have to get the best out of me. Let me acknowledge the traditional landowners, custodians of the land on which we stand today, past, present, and emerging. I would also want to acknowledge all the leaders, both from the government and the private sector, who are here in attendance. I acknowledge also the Australian government officials, our good friends, and Australian business investors who are here as well. Any of my colleagues, ambassadors, high commissioners who are here. And thank you all for coming to this important conference. The investment conference provides an important avenue for PNG to showcase the huge investment potential and the opportunities that are present and emerging in our country. It provides an excellent platform for the PNG government to inform the Australian business community and other international investors of their policies and programs that it is embarking on to promote and encourage economic development as well as foreign direct investments in PNG. It also provides an important forum for government and business leaders to meet, interact, network, and explore possible partnerships for investments in the country. The Pangu-led coalition under Prime Minister Marape has returned with a resounding majority, and Honourable James Marape was re-elected unopposed on the floor of the National Parliament on 9th August 2022. During his inaugural speech to the National Parliament, he highlighted key priorities that his government will be embarking on. He began by saying that the first Pangu-led government brought political independence to Papua New Guinea in 1975. This new government, again Pangu-led government, with a young generation of leaders, would deliver economic independence, where the people will be provided with the means and the ability to benefit from their own resources, such as agriculture, tourism, marine resources, gold, oil, or gas, and they become the biggest beneficiaries of these resources. I will try as much as I can to pinpoint some of these key priorities that the government has outlined and say a few words on each of those priorities. The government has said it would embark on this. 1, strengthening the democratic processes. 2, building a resilient economy. 3, building an economic infrastructure. 4, addressing natural resources. 5, addressing business and investment confidence. 6, addressing law and order. 7, working on education and health. And finally, strengthening the greater institutions of state. He stressed that his government's key priority will be to sustain the Connect PNG policy. This policy is the critical economic enabler that will accelerate economic activity and connect our country through improved roads, airports, airstrips, wharves, and ports, ICT and energy to build an inclusive nation and stimulate growth. It is about unlocking our country so that it realizes its full potential in agriculture, fisheries, tourism, and the hospitality industry. The first one, strengthening democratic processes. The government is intent on reforming the electoral processes, starting with an audit of the 2022 national elections in order to give every single eligible voter one vote. Review the governance oversight, update the common role with reliable ID systems with emphasis on biometric IDs in an electronic voting counting system. Building a resilient economy, this government will continue with its program of budget repair and reconstruction through a transparent and accountable manner that begins by spotlighting the different components of revenues, operations, and capital expenditure and growth projections up to 2033. Building economic infrastructure. The government will sustain the Connect PNG policy to accelerate economic activity and connect all parts of the country through improved roads, airports, airstrips, wharves, and ports, ICT and energy to develop an inclusive economy to stimulate growth and investments. The government is intent on fully implementing projects in these key infrastructures to facilitate the movement of people, services, and businesses for education and health to truly unlock our potential in agriculture, forestry, fisheries, and tourism. The government, with the support of international bilateral and multilateral partners, is reforming state-owned enterprises to improve delivery of public utilities such as power, water, and telecommunications on the back of this, as always, building strong and robust partnerships with provinces and landowners to complement the connectivity agenda. Natural resources. PNG is endowed with natural resources such as forestry, fisheries, oil, gas, mining, and energy. The government aims to monetize these resources sustainably so that it contributes to our development aspirations. The government also intends to review the resource laws in consultation with industry and relevant stakeholders and introduce changes by 2025, which will be mutually beneficial to all. The government is committed to ensuring that the current projects on the pipeline are progressed, with Pogera the lowest hanging fruit, and with others to follow, including Wafi Golpu, Pinian, Papua, and Pasca A. The government is committed to reviewing revenues from taxation and the equity from our resource projects, noting that we have enjoyed high prices recently, which are likely to yield enormous benefits, providing there are no disruptions. The government will focus on forestry, fisheries, and agriculture, with emphasis on downstream processing and import substitution, growing, producing, and consuming locally where necessary. The government is also focused on growing the rural economy through commercializing agriculture, opening up markets for agriculture products, sustaining the commodity price support, and freight subsidy programs, both of which have an enormous impact in growth in the agriculture sector. In fisheries, the government is committed to encouraging downstream processing of all our marine products, not just tuna. In forestry, we are committed to stopping all round log exports by 2025 and explore state market options in order to retain the volume to move into downstream processing and stimulate growth. In tourism, we are creating the enabling infrastructure, the SME support, and a secured environment which will unlock this potential. It is our intention to positively support those who are serious about going into tourism services, because we want to develop tourism areas for local tourism as well as international tourism. For business and investor confidence, our government is intent on building and restoring business and investor confidence back into the country with transparent processes in business entry, work permits, visa reforms, with stable policy and operating environments, business processes improvements, important infrastructure, energy sustainability, and security improvement in the environment, and willingness to consult with the private sector. Taxation reforms and process auditing and improvements are some important initiatives which would build confidence in the economy for investments and businesses. The government will be focused on SME development with support of $200 million each year to support all SME lending, with the aim of migrating 50% of micro, small, and medium enterprises into the formal sector to broaden the tax base and generate additional revenue for the government. There is a clear focus on SME and agriculture, where families receive financing support and are empowered to be economically independent. We want to capitalize on the huge potential for tourism in PNG with unique tourism products for local and international tourism. SEZ, or Special Economic Zones, some of which you will hear throughout the conference, are being rolled out in the areas that need a big push in development. The SEZ allows businesses to be built so that they provide employment, but the delivery of important services and growth opportunities for the areas are part of the determination. At the same time, it provides much needed concessions to allow businesses to grow. By its very nature, the SEZ provides an integrated approach to development where it helps build infrastructure and services that governments or the private sector cannot build on their own. Law and order, it is the intention of the government to build one ministry, internal security, and rebuild and reform the disciplinary forces to restore the confidence of the public in the disciplinary services. The correctional centers will now become places where penalties are administered, but also for corrective behavior, and also train offenders to learn technical skills and have second chance in life. Corruption, the ICAC has been established, and it is the intention of this government to make it functional and operational to bring those engaged in corrupt practices to account. In education, no child will be left behind, with all being given the opportunity to reach grade 12, fully utilizing digital technology and opening up more spaces at colleges and tertiary institutions, because we want to introduce business, commerce, and agriculture in school systems to encourage direct entry into SMEs and the labour mobility schemes under the Pacific Australia Labour Mobility with our nearest neighbour and bilateral partner, Australia. I've been doing a fair bit of work on that front, so if you are keen on helping us, I'm happy to speak on that. On health, this government wishes to ensure that a health facility is within an hour's reach by walking, an hour by boat, an hour by truck, and an hour by plane. We plan to build specialist services for lifestyle diseases in all our major hospitals and prevent people traveling overseas for these services. Strengthening the institutions of state, the government wishes to see a leaner public service, leaner public sector with effective and efficient delivery systems, taking account of the recommendations made by the Special Parliamentary Committee on Public Sector Reform, to ensure all executive appointments are merit-based and to encourage skilled officers to be redeployed to districts where they will help to forge partnerships with the private sector, the NGOs, the churches, and the SMEs to improve service delivery. Procurement of goods and services must be transparent and visible with robust accountability structures, particularly in the education and health sectors. You will know that our government signed off on a comprehensive strategic economic partnership with Australia in August 2020. It is a long-term strategic partnership that is to provide a framework to elevate and strengthen trade and investment relations and other important areas of bilateral relations. Many of the key priorities that are highlighted in what I've said are also reflected in the CSEP. Australia is also already supporting PNG in the development of many projects in critical sectors such as the ICT through Coral Sea Cable, as well as the ports development in PNG, where Australia assisted PNG with over 580 million Australian dollars, which is the equivalent of 1.1 billion, to finance the repair and upgrade of several key ports, namely Lae, Tidal Basin, Kimbe, Lorengau, Vanimo, and Wewak. Let me conclude by stating that private sector development and the foreign direct investments are important to achieve economic growth, economic sustainability, and economic independence for the country. I note that there are over 5,000 Australian businesses which are currently operating in PNG, and they're contributing enormously in many ways to our country's development. I would like to encourage more Australian businesses and other foreign direct investments in PNG in these critical sectors, particularly the government's drive to encourage downstream processing in the agriculture, fisheries, and forestry sectors, as well as tourism industry. Note that the Connect PNG programs, particularly the development of infrastructure such as roads, airports, wharves, ports, energy and ICT, are critical enablers that will generate economic development. In this context, I can encourage more Australian investments in these sectors as well.